Hey, this is Khan, you're watching Ninja Pulls, and it's time for another PTS cycle. ESO's Q3 update, known simply as Update 43, goes live on August 19th for PC. It's sort of been billed as a housing update, but it is not. Firstly because the new housing toy is more of a UI thing than a housing feature, and secondly because there's way more interesting stuff than that on the way. Upgrades to Infinite Archive, new class sets, big changes to class abilities and passives, plus some balance changes to the scribing system. First, Home Tours is a lovely little update, letting you list your homes for viewing and visit listings from other players. But housing enthusiasts have been doing this for years, on all platforms. Still, some players might not be aware of the housing scene and of the amazing community around it, and if this draws their attention to it, great. Now onto the other stuff, starting with the new sets. They do look more practical than the first round we got. I particularly like the look of the Necro and Templar sets. But some of the tooltips are quite convoluted. I'll wait until I've tested them before jumping to conclusions. Lots more to come on this, but for now, moving on. Infinite Archive is getting more spice and variety. Not only to tempt back those of us who've collected most of what's on offer, but also to entice those who don't spend much time there. The new daily quest to kill marauders or fabled enemies is one example, since you don't even see those enemies until Arcs 2 and upwards. Also, the new consumable, which turns you into a random avatar, whether or not you have the relevant visions collected. Zos even said that this was aimed at players who don't stay in the archive long enough to collect all the avatar visions and have missed out on all the fun of using them. 10 new cycle bosses, 2 new marauders called Bitog and Zulfimble, basically Baylorg and Kinraz by the sound of it, new fabled enemies, and a bunch of new verses and visions, including an undead avatar. 2 new arena environments are coming as well, fire and ice, with new environmental hazards to force us to watch our footing, especially on higher arcs. It sounds like a pretty shrewd round of updates, with more fun and incentives to get the rookies in there, while adding some more challenges for the well-versed. Next, class changes. Arcanist's Flail no longer has execute scaling, and only heals you if it deals damage. The other morph, Tentacular Dread, now hits twice as hard when consuming 3 Crux. Clearly the devs realize it's time to end the total dominance of stamina Arcanists in Trials, all with the same rotation. Whether this will get us there? I'm not sure, but I guess it's a step in that direction. Necromancer now gets Major Prophecy and Savagery from Siphon, and Major Brutality and Sorcery from the Archer or Mage, making it a lot easier for Necros to use Tri-Stat potions if they want. Unnerving Boneyard also gets Minor Vulnerability. Summoner's Armor now grants Minor Resolve, lovely. Intensive Mender now heals 3 targets. Agony Totem applies Major Cowardice. Ghostly Embrace now has more damage functionality. And Sacrificial Bones can now be pre-buffed out of combat. On the downside, we can no longer generate corpses out of combat for Ultigen. That's a big one, and I'm gonna miss it a lot. But hey-ho. Nightblade is getting its furniture moved around. Veiled Strike, so Surprise Attack and Concealed Weapon, are no longer shadow abilities, but assassination abilities, meaning they grant all the passive bonuses from that skill line, but no major resolve. Meanwhile, Blur becomes a shadow ability, and the Shadow Barrier passive now grants major resolve for 12 seconds at base, increasing by 2 seconds per piece of heavy armor. Also, Funnel Health now heals up to 3 targets. Not exactly the Nightblade buff people have been begging for in PvE, but it makes sense, and at least it's something. The fact that they're tinkering around in here suggests there is more to come. I certainly hope so. Sorcerer will become slightly less obnoxious in PvP, since Daedric Curse can now be blocked. Warden's Arctic Blast no longer heals and stuns. It instantly deals direct damage, then after 2 seconds the dot starts ticking, and either stuns enemies or heals you if no enemies were stunned. It also has a lower chance to apply Chilled. Piercing Cold was also changed to activate when you deal frost damage. If you have 30k health or more, it increases block mitigation, and if your health is below 30k, it increases your damage done by 8%. Both these changes are obviously aimed at PvP, and they do hurt the Magical Warden a bit, but at least it opens up other options beside the Master's Frost Staff. Speaking of PvP, the Vampire passive Undeath now reduces damage taken by 10% rather than 30%, but you no longer need to be stage 3 to get it. Also, Scribing altars have been added to Cyrodiil and Imperial city bases. There are a bunch of minor fixes to other abilities, including Silver Leash, which I hope will now pull enemies consistently without the need to spam it. Now onto Scribing. The main thing for a lot of people is that ink now drops from chests and heavy sacks. They might still need to boost the sourcing on this, but prices are dropping, and this means there should be even more of it around. It looks like Zos are still being generally quite conservative with Scribing so as not to overpower it, but it is getting a little stronger. Grimoires now react when you add scripts to them with tooltip increases to make them more competitive, and many of the script effects have been tuned up a little. Resource return effects in particular have gone up pretty much across the board. Goading Smash, the taunt version, has been changed to require a target so you don't taunt the wrong thing by accident. A few specific combos got big buffs, like Vault plus Heal, which is now 55% stronger. Affix scripts got some more major buffs and debuffs added to the mix, like Trample granting major heroism instead of minor. The general rule is that major buffs last 10 seconds on scribed abilities, while minor buffs last 20, with the odd exception. In short, it'll probably be worth revisiting that Scribing altar when Update 43 goes live, because those combos that you decided weren't quite good enough to use in that specific build or situation, well, they may have crossed the line now. Damage over time scripts were fixed to stop breaking stealth. Scripts now stack in your inventory and should all cost the same when sold to vendors. No big changes to gear sets, but a lot of procs that could be dispelled have now been fixed, and sets like Runecarver and Null Archer will now have their damage properly recorded by trial dummies. If you've been getting crappy results with these on console, that was a bug which should now be fixed. We're also getting quality of life improvements like curated coffers from the Undaunted. Not the basic 1-key coffer, but the dungeon-specific purple coffers, which will now cost 8 keys instead of 5. That makes it way easier to collect all those monster sets you might need one day. Weekly trial rewards and Imperial City vendors will also be curated. We also get a load of new furnishings and 2 new houses. That mystery villa on Auridon, where you can actually toggle the flowers on and off that grow on the building. And a huge house themed around the 5 companions in West Weald. New skill styles are also arriving, including some that haven't been announced. When I was on PTS, I noticed quite a few class abilities that had that telltale icon next to them, so watch this space. Plus a ton of fixes for quests, items, pathing, and typos throughout the game. Some crashes and UI errors, bugs with the group finder system, and that crazy one where you appear to have 1 trillion mails in your inbox, all fixed. That's Update 43. I hope I didn't miss anything important. Tell me how much you loved my summary by giving us a sub. It's always massively appreciated. And stay tuned for our coverage of the whole PTS cycle. Have a great summer, guys, and thanks for watching.